Hello and welcome to the very first OSOROSHII Saturday of 2016. That's right, OSOROSHII Saturday is back with me, your host, Unrested, bringing you the creepiest, most disturbing J-pastas, urban legends, Toshidensetsu, and anything else that you would want from Japan. Now, mixed with international stuff as well. That's right, I'm adding in a whole load of international stuff that I find just because I don't want to be cornered or pigeonholed into a certain realm of horror. Yes, of course, I have tons and tons of Japanese and Asian horror to share with you, from everything and scary stories and manga from Korea and Japan and all sorts of different J-pasta or creepy soba, as some Japanese tend to call it. And I'll still continue to do that. But we are going to expand this year. We're going to get into international stuff as well. And I'll be sharing at least one thing in this episode that is not of Japan. It's one scary game that I played last year and I thoroughly enjoyed and highly recommend it. You'll have to wait till the end to see it if you want to. That being said, today we've got all different types of stuff. We've pretty much stuck to the old schedule of showing you anything from creepy footage, scary stories, and at the end showing you Bukimi Bites. Bukimi Bites, if you don't already know what it is bites of information on scary movies, scary games, etc. That being said, let's jump right into the horror with our very first story. This is a dream related to me from Nichan, the equivalent to 4chan in America, Japan's board for anything and everything weird, creepy, strange, and on the internet. This is called The Monkey Dream. It says, translator's note, this is another J-pasta, or creepy soba. I don't really know what to call it. But apparently some people who read this have weird things happen to them because it is supposedly based on a true dream that the user had. So this is based on a dream. They labeled it as a creepy pasta, but really is a dream that this person had. Obviously, dreams aren't real, so I guess what happens in it isn't real, but they did actually experience this via a sleeping state, so that makes it a little bit creepy if nothing else. I had a dream ever since I was little. Sometimes when I'm dreaming, I become aware that I am inside the dream. You know, a lucid dream. This dream was one of those. For some reason, it was poorly lit. An unmanned station, and I was all by myself. This is really gloomy, I thought. Then suddenly, I heard a man's lifeless voice over the station intercom. The train will be arriving shortly. If you board this train, you will know what real fear is. Following the ambiguous announcement, a train arrived at the station. Well, calling it a train might be a bit much. It was more like a carnival ride-looking dencha. It was an amusement park-looking train that was decorated with monkeys all over the train. There were several sickly looking people sitting on the seats inside. Wow, what a weird dream, I thought. But I wanted to see just how scary my dreams could be. So I decided to get on the train. If I got too scared, well, I could just wake myself up. With lucid dreams, I could control them as I was able. I sat down on the train, 3 seats from the back. The air felt uncomfortably warm. The atmosphere was so realistic that I wondered whether or not I was actually dreaming. Now departing, said the announcer, and the train began to move. My heart was pounding with anticipation and anxiety as I wondered what would happen. As soon as the train left the platform, we entered a tunnel. A purple light illuminated the tunnel eerily. I've seen this tunnel before, I remembered. It's the tunnel from the haunted house ride at the amusement park I used to go to as a kid. I must be remembering the monkey train and haunted house rides from back then. This really isn't anything to be scared of. Another announcement floated through the air. Next is Ikkezukuri. 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 I wondered, did they mean the dish where fish is sliced and served raw? Because that's what Ikkezukuri means. The head and tail are left on the side for decoration, and the meat is put at the center of the plate. But why would you call a location that a train's going this dish? Out of nowhere, I heard a piercing shriek come from behind me. I turned around and saw 4 small people holding rags, surrounding the man in the last seat. As I got a better look, I saw the man was being cut up with knives and being prepared, just like Ikkezukuri. I strong stench drifted through the air, and the man continued his piercing scream. His insides were taken out, one after another. Right behind me was a sick-looking woman with long hair. She panicked for a moment when it started, but soon became silent and faced forward towards me as though nothing was happening on the train. I was shocked with unimaginable horror. Was this really happening right behind me? I wondered if this really was actually a dream, and I began to get scared. I'd waited out just for a little longer before I woke myself up. Soon, I noticed the man in the back was no longer there. Just blood and chunks of meat were all that remained. Just as I gazed before, the woman behind me had fixed herself, looking on with a lifeless expression on her face. "Next is Butsu Butsu. Butsu Butsu," the announcer said. Butsu Butsu. That's the onomatopoeia for stabbing someone. Why would you name a location that? This time, two of the small people appeared, carrying spoons with jagged edges. They began to scoop out the eyes of the expressionless woman behind me. She had seemed apathetic before, but now, because of the pain on her expression changed to something terrible. She raised such a cry that I thought my eardrums would burst. Her eyeballs flew from her sockets. The stench of blood and sweat were unbearable. I began to shake with fear. I faced forward and bent over in my seat. This is my cue. I can't take any more of this. Not to mention, judging by the current order, I'm in line next. I was going to make myself wake up, but first I wanted to see what kind of announcement they would make next. "Godo Godo is the next stop. Godo Godo." Godo Godo. The sound of something something rolling, something... No, a grinder. Shit. It was pretty easy to imagine what would happen next. I concentrated as hard as I could and tried to wake myself up. It's just a dream, wake up. It's just a dream, wake up. I also recite these words to myself when I want to wake from lucid dreams, and it always works. Suddenly, I heard a loud brrrr of a machine. This time, a small person sat on my knees and came up at me with a strange-looking contraption. I can only assume it was some sort of meat-mincing machine. I got even more scared. It's just a dream, wake up. It's just a dream, wake up. I closed my eyes and prayed with all I had. The sound grew louder and louder. I could feel the wind from the machine on my face. I was convinced I was a goner. And then, everything went silent. I escaped from the nightmare. I was covered in sweat and crying. I got up from my bed and went over to the kitchen to get a drink of water. Somehow, I calmed down. That was horribly realistic. But it was only a dream, I thought to myself. The next day, I told all my friends about the dream at school, but they all just thought it was funny. 4 years later, I was in college and completely forgotten about the nightmare, until one night when I was at work. That's when it started. "Next is Butsu Butsu. Butsu Butsu is next." It was the same. Everything came flooding back. The same two little people were there, gouging out the eyes of the same expressionless girl. Shit, I thought it's just a dream. Wake up. But I couldn't wake up. "It's just a dream. Wake up." "Next is the grinder. The grinder is next." "No, this is too much." It was getting closer again. "It's just a dream. Wake up." Silence. Thinking I had escaped, I opened my eyes. "Are you running away again?" the voice called out to me. "The next time we come for you last." I opened my eyes, and this time I was really awake in my room. The announcement I had heard definitely wasn't a dream. Though, I heard it here, in the real world. I know I did. What have I done? I haven't had the dream again since, but I believe that when it happens again, I will die from cardiac arrest or something else like this. Well, in this world, it would be cardiac arrest. In the other world, it'll probably be the grinder. There you go. Creepy news time. We've got some really strange and creepy news coming right out of Japan, and that is the fact that boats carrying dead bodies have been washing ashore in Japan. Now, from my honest opinion and honest thoughts on this, when I first heard about it, I had thought it had to do with the Tohoku earthquake that had only happened years past, because ships had also been washing up in California, though they did not have bodies on them. They were fishing boats, small fishing boats that had been washing up on the shores of California all the way from Japan due to that earthquake and the tsunami that followed. The problem was that when these boats were washing up now recently, and I'm talking just in November, they were sometimes carrying full intact bodies, which would be impossible. Obviously, the Tohoku earthquake happened long enough that they would be little more than skeletons at this point, just due to nature and time. These have been washing up with all different sorts of things. The reports that I had heard while reading these different news stories and hearing them on the news here in Japan was that some washed up with 6 skulls, one washed up with a full skeleton intact, and another one washed up with a full body intact. And by intact, I mean they're still wearing clothes, they've got skin on them, they're bloated, etc. Now, at first, people were thinking this was Japanese fishing boats heading over to areas that were too close to North Korea and being attacked by them patrolling the borders. But it turns out that these boats tend to not be what would be considered the average Japanese fishing boat. They were anywhere from 33 to 40 meters in length, I believe, and these are far too small to be fishing boats from Japan. They said in general, nobody uses boats this small to be part of a corporate fishing company. And also on top of that, nobody reported anybody missing from Japan. So not only are these Japanese bodies, and yes, they have been tested via DNA that they are Japanese from Japan, not only have they been washing up on shore, but they haven't been noted as being missing from any family or job or fishing company or logbook saying a ship that had gone out for fishing. On top of that, the boats don't appear to be from Japan. They said possibly they could be North Korean fishing boats because of their size and shoddy craftsmanship. But talking to North Korea, they too report that they are not missing fishing boats. On the other hand, North Korea doesn't tend to be the most truthful country, so how much we can take their word for it is really up for discussion. That being said, though, it's still a really odd event. They don't know how these bodies have been killed, why they've been killed. They said they're usually ruined far beyond being able to figure out the cause of death, and that they're washing up on shore since October and November. They said each year for the past 3 years there have been anywhere from 40 to 80 of these bodies washing up, and they just have no idea why. It's not just that they're like, oh, this must be people who privately went on fishing trips. They're people dressed in clothes of actual fishing corporations. They have a whole usual suit that they wear. It looks like a giant raincoat, and usually they have their company logo on it because in Japan uniforms are pretty standard. They said they're washing up with stuff where it looks like it would be this clothes. It doesn't have any corporate symbol on it or anything like that. But they're definitely dead. They're definitely fishermen. They're definitely in fishing boats. And these boats are not from Japan, but these people are. And they're not able to identify who the people are either. That's another mystery that's just been left. And the whole thing is just really strange. There are still no answers for it. I've been watching the news regularly to see if they ever catch up to figure out what all this stuff is. As of yet, a giant mystery. I will continue to report on this story as it develops. As for now, we'll just leave it in the creepy news. Now for Bukimi Bites. Bukimi is Japanese for creepy. And this is the part where we review horror movies and games, starting first with Ryoru Oni Goko, which literally translates to Demon Tag, or its English counterpart title, just simply Tag. It is based on a game that young children play in Japan that is the Western version of Tag. It's just Demon Tag, in which the person who is the tagger is called the demon. And this movie doesn't really have much to do with what the title is. There is no game of tag. I suppose the unseen force at the very beginning, which you'll know with no spoilers, happens at the very beginning. That's the scene I'm actually showing you here. The characters are tagged by some sort of unknown force in the sense that it attacks them, but really I'm still unsure as to why they titled it this, other than the fact that there is a manga that it is based off of. The manga is quite good. The movie is so. I would say it's worth it for a watch for those of you who are splatterpunk fans. If you're a big fan of hordes of gore and all kinds of guts and disembowelment, this is for you. If you're a fan of subtle, slow burner scares, this is going to disappoint. It is mostly a non-stop chase, run, gore, shoot up, split in half, smash, crash type of movie, and It rushes through the manga like most adaptations do. They can't obviously go through the long story, the exposition of the manga, so they just kind of rush it through, which you failing as a celebrity, marrying into a life of celebrity, dealing with how paparazzi distort and change people's lives, and then the horror that can come after losing all that high level of celebrity and de-evolving into just a game of utter madness and terror because of what this man and his family have suffered through, the tragedies they've gone through, and how it's driven him to this point. It is so well and detailed and written, so great that you will be hooked if you are a true horror fan of the types of horror that are slow burning and slowly evolving and walking you down literal paths of madness. I don't want to give away too much because I feel like there is so much you can get from this game. I believe it's about $15 or $20 on Steam. Well worth the price. I believe it is still in early access and there isn't a definite ending as of yet, but you'll still be left pretty damn satisfied if you play all the way through it. I myself have played from start to finish twice already and had a great time each time, and it is absolutely horrifying. We are not just talking jump scares here like every Five Nights at Freddy's game, which I'm not mocking them, but they are just based completely on jump scares. We're talking about deep, well-written story that will horrify you once you start to clarify what this guy is going through. Highly recommended. Layers of Fear. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for this new episode in 2016. I apologize so long for the delay in between this episode and the last from 2015. This year, I'm not going to be staying on a schedule, and I'm going to be putting these out as I make them so that I can give myself as much time as I want to create these and make them as good as I possibly can for you, the viewer. I hope that doesn't make anybody angry. If you do want to see more of these, like I said, hit like, hit subscribe, share these as many places as possible. The more I see it getting watched, the more I get on views, the more I get people asking for more, the more I'm going to make. Thank you so much for your support over all these years. I am Unrested, and this is OSOROSHII Saturday.